Well, we've got Eamon Kelly and Maureen Gaffney with us. Eamon, what is it about Christmas that makes a lot of people start looking back and thinking of times past?
Because there's a magic about Christmas when you're a child, and that's the way it was with me. I was the eldest of a family of 8, and we were living in the middle of the country before the ESB poles came marching down the valley. So that Christmas for us was a magic pool of light in the middle of the darkness of winter. Before that, we just had the light of a candle or the light of the lamp. But on Christmas night, all the candles were like one on every window. So there was a great blaze of light. And as somebody said, maybe I said it myself, you know, when all the lights came on the countryside all round, we dashed out of the door to see all the lights coming on in all the different places, so that the ground below was like a reflection of the starry heavens above. And Christmas also had a magic for us as children, because you know, at that particular time, you know, as we were poor, and things weren't as plentiful as they are now, and we had things that were very simple things at Christmas that we didn't have for the rest of the year.
Right, and this was long, of course, before the days of Nintendo and all these computer games and so forth.
Oh, there was nothing like that.
Tell me about this special Christmas postal delivery that you used to have.
Oh yes, there was a Christmas delivery on Christmas Day. And the postman, by doing all the rounds, he was invited into most kitchens. He would have to have the drop the cheers, you know, and a lot of them. So by the time he arrived at our house, he'd be quite in good humour. But he had a huge carrier in front of the bike and one behind. And I had several aunts in America, and we used to get parcels from them. And very often they would arrive on Christmas Day, a small coach with a horse in it. And then we used to get presents of clothing from America. These were sorts of things that I used to buy, and they were American style things. We hated them, and my mother used to give the scissors and the needle and said to my mother to alter them before we put them on and go out in front of our neighbours to see them.
You were talking about how you were a part of a big family now. I mean, do you remember any rows or anything like that, or was it always happy and pleasant?
It was the usual, as Saints, as they say, the usual sort of thing between children, but never a row in the house. I don't think I can't remember any row between just my father and mother. And when I was very young, 4 or 5, there'd be just two or three of us there. So the Christmas was very quiet. And even when there were the whole 8 of us were there, there'd be just the ordinary squabbles that there would be between small people.
And it was goose you ate now, not turkey?
So long ago now that I can't remember. I know there was ham there. Maybe it was chicken and ham and goose. It was goose anyway. It was goose always at my father's and mother's time. The turkey didn't come in until much later after my time.
Maureen, were all your Christmases happy ones?
Well, there were kind of highs and lows, I think. I think mainly I remember just the exquisite sense of anticipation about Christmas that went on for... Certainly, my grandmother, who sort of dominated our childhood, started preparing for Christmas in October. And there used to be a biscuit tin in the cupboard full of all the spices, you know, ginger and cinnamon and nutmeg, which is really the only time in the year we ever used things like that. So there was a marvellous smell, and she'd be getting in drink. It was the only time, certainly, I ever saw the women in the house would take like a glass of sweet sherry with all the people who come in from the country to visit us and that. And I mainly remember that, and the puddings, like my grandmother used to cook these big, huge plum puddings over the Primus out in the scullery, and they'd be hanging up on the ceiling. And that's I mainly remember the feeling of just that it would never come, that it was just a tremendous sense of anticipation.
Right, what about today? I mean, it's hardly possible now to open a newspaper without reading some article about how to survive Christmas, to get over the stress and the trauma. I mean, why is that?
Well, I don't think that's a new thing. I think we talk about it much more. But certainly I remember growing up as well that Christmas it's very bittersweet, because whatever is wrong with your life, I mean, Christmas acts like an X-ray and it puts its focus right on it. So if you're unloved, or if you're alone, or if your family are away, I mean, there's a terrible sense that things aren't right, that you're not all together at Christmas, you know, either personally or collectively. And certainly I remember growing up, one of the big things, like again the high and the low point of Christmas, was all the people coming back from England, because I grew up in the 50s, and all these men would come back in these kind of shiny navy blue suits from London, and there would be such carousing and such celebration when they came, but they'd no sooner be there than they'd be counting down the days to go back again, and the terrible sense of loss again. And I suppose really, in a way, the stress of Christmas is all about trying to do as an adult what was done for you as a child, because Christmas is primarily all about wish fulfillment. It's what Santa does. Santa comes down the chimney, or he comes in your house in some magic way. He'll read your secret wishes and you'll get your heart's delight.
Right. But I mean, people talk about sort of, you know, famous family rows that happen at Christmas time. I mean, are there particular ways of avoiding them? I suppose maybe to be more sensitive, or what?
Well, I don't know. I mean, to some extent, I think the 5-star Christmas row like is almost as much part of the season as pudding and cake. You know, I mean, I really know of hardly anybody who doesn't have. You know, it starts building up. You know, when there's a sort of a paralysis descends on people. You know, there's an inverse relationship. I think, between the number of shopping days left and a feeling of depression. I mean, the least number of days left, the more depressed, and people sort of are paralysed. And then there's a frenzy of preparation. And then you hear these wretched songs, you know, inside the supermarkets, you know, simply having a wonderful Christmas time. And it builds up a huge sense of resentment and sort of self-pity. And of course, that's a terrible combination of feelings.
Will you be very busy in the aftermath of Christmas, people getting on, how am I going to survive this?
Oh yes, well, our busiest time is after Christmas and after the summer holidays, when you've had just too much enforced intimacy. So I would say aim for semi-detached intimacy this Christmas.
Maureen.